The Sleepy Starlight Dragon. Read by Chuck Brown.
Ah, my dear little one, settle in close and let old Wizard Willowbeard tell you a most enchanting tale. Pull your blankets up snug, for this story begins in the deepest, quietest part of the Whispering Woods, where magic sparkles like dewdrops on spiderwebs. Long ago, when the moon was just learning how to smile and the stars were still quite young, there lived a very special dragon in a hidden valley. But this wasn't just any dragon. Oh no, this was Stella, the Starlight Dragon, and she was no bigger than a house cat, with scales that shimmered like captured moonbeams and tiny wings that glowed with silver light. Now, you must wonder why I would tell you about a dragon at bedtime. Well, my sleepy friend, this little dragon had developed the most unusual problem. She simply couldn't fall asleep. You see, Stella was a nocturnal creature by nature, meant to fly through the night sky and dance with the twinkling stars. But something had gone terribly wrong with her sleeping magic. Every morning, when all the other magical creatures were settling down for their daytime rest, poor little Stella would toss and turn in her cozy nest of silver moss and moonflower petals. She would curl up tight, wrap her glowing tail around herself like a luminous blanket, and close her starry eyes. But sleep simply would not come. "Oh, fiddle-dee-dee!" Stella would sigh in frustration, her tiny voice tinkling like wind chimes. "Why can't I sleep like everyone else? What's wrong with me?" The other creatures in the Whispering Woods tried their absolute best to help their dear sleepy friend. They all loved little Stella dearly and couldn't bear to see her suffering so. Oliver, the wise owl, who was quite the expert in nighttime matters, brought her carefully selected bundles of the most fragrant lavender leaves and chamomile flowers, picked at just the right time when their sleepy properties were strongest. "These magical herbs have helped countless creatures find peaceful rest," he hooted softly, arranging them gently around her nest. "Breathe in their calming scent, dear Stella." Rosie the kind rabbit gathered all her cousins and siblings from throughout the meadows to sing the softest, most melodious lullabies they knew. Their sweet voices blended together like the most beautiful choir you could imagine, creating harmonies that floated through the forest like silk ribbons on the evening breeze. They sang about sleepy meadows where flowers nodded their heads in drowsy contentment, about gentle brooks that whispered soothing secrets, and about the peaceful quiet that settled over the world when day turned to night. Even mighty Benny the Bear, who was famous throughout the woodland for his spectacular hibernation abilities, generously offered to share his cave with little Stella. "It's the darkest, coziest, most perfectly quiet spot in the entire forest," he rumbled in his deep, naturally sleepy voice. "The walls are lined with the softest moss that's been growing for decades, and there's a gentle underground stream nearby that makes the most peaceful trickling sounds you've ever heard." Willow the wise deer brought magical sleep stones that glowed with gentle blue light, said to calm even the most restless spirits. Pip the thoughtful hedgehog offered his prized collection of the fluffiest dandelion seeds to make her pillow even more comfortable than clouds. The cricket choir spent hours practicing their most soothing nighttime symphonies, and even the normally chatty chipmunk family solemnly promised to be extra quiet during the daytime hours. But despite all their tremendous kindness, creativity, and genuine concern, absolutely nothing seemed to work. Poor Stella would lie in her beautiful nest, surrounded by fragrant herbs, listening to the sweetest lullabies and most peaceful sounds the forest could offer. But her eyes remained stubbornly open, and her mind continued to race with worried, anxious thoughts. Now, this is where I come into our magical story, my dear little listener. You see, I was taking my regular morning walk through the enchanted woods, a daily ritual that I have faithfully maintained for over 300 years, searching for the special singing mushrooms that I needed for my breakfast soup. These particular mushrooms are quite remarkable, you know. They only sing their sweetest, most melodious songs just after dawn breaks, when the first golden rays of sunlight touch their spotted caps, and their magical music adds the most delightful savory flavor to a warm, bubbling broth. As I wandered along the winding forest path, my ancient gnarled walking stick tapping rhythmically against the moss-covered stones like a gentle woodpecker, I heard the most pitiful, heart-wrenching little sighs and yawns drifting through the morning mist from the direction of Stella's peaceful meadow. Now, in many, many centuries of wandering through these magical woods and meeting countless enchanted creatures, I have learned to recognize the particular sound of a magical being in genuine distress. These sighs had a very special quality to them, like tiny silver bells ringing with the deepest sadness, like crystal teardrops falling into still water. I must have been quite an unusual sight to behold, I imagine, with my flowing purple robes decorated with tiny embroidered stars and crescent moons that actually twinkled in the sunlight, my tall pointed hat sitting slightly askew from ducking under countless low-hanging branches, and my magnificent beard so incredibly long that I had to keep it carefully tucked into my leather belt to prevent it from dragging along the ground and collecting leaves and twigs as I walked. "Who's there?" called Stella when she spotted me approaching through the morning mist. She was sitting dejectedly on her favorite spotted toadstool, looking exhausted. Her usually brilliant scales had grown dim, her eyelids drooped, and her little head hung with the saddest expression I'd ever seen on a dragon's face. "Why, it's just old Willowbeard, my dear little dragon," I said warmly, removing my hat with a theatrical flourish that caused glittering magical dust to sparkle in the air like falling stars. "I couldn't help but notice you seem quite troubled. In my many years befriending magical creatures, I've learned to recognize when someone has a truly magical problem, and something tells me your sleeplessness isn't ordinary restlessness." Stella's scales flickered weakly with worried, anxious light that pulsed irregularly like a candle flame in a draught. "Oh, Wizard Willowbeard," she said, her voice trembling with exhaustion and frustration. "I am so incredibly, impossibly tired, but I simply cannot fall asleep no matter what I tried. I have attempted absolutely everything I can think of, and everything my wonderful friends have suggested. I've tried counting sheep as they leap gracefully over tiny fences, counting stars as they twinkle on and off like magical fireflies, counting fluffy white clouds as they drift lazily across the face of the moon. And I've even tried counting my own beautiful scales from the very tip of my tail all the way up to the top of my head. I've experimented with sleeping in every conceivable position, curled up tight like a sleeping cat, stretched out long like a sunbathing snake, upside down like the bats in their cozy caves, and even standing up like the horses in their meadow pastures. Absolutely nothing works at all, and with each passing day, I grow more and more exhausted. My scales are losing their natural shimmer and glow. My delicate wings feel as heavy as stones,
and I can barely remember what it feels like to wake up truly rested and refreshed.
I settled myself carefully on a nearby cushiony mushroom, arranging my flowing robes around me like a purple cloud and pulling out my favorite thinking pipe. This magical pipe was quite special, you know. Even when I wasn't actually smoking anything in it, it would puff out small, perfectly formed clouds shaped like sleeping animals, tiny lambs, drowsing cats, slumbering bears, and peacefully resting birds that would float gently through the air before dissolving into sparkles. I stroked my magnificent beard thoughtfully, running my weathered fingers through the long silver strands that sparkled and glittered with tiny specks of actual stardust, souvenirs I had collected during countless nighttime adventures and magical encounters over the centuries. You see, I had encountered this exact problem once before, many, many years ago, when I was still considered a relatively young wizard, though that was well over 2 centuries in the past. I remembered quite clearly another Starlight dragon named Cosmos who had faced precisely the same mysterious and troubling dilemma. "Tell me something important, little Stella," I asked gently. "When was the last time you shared your precious Starlight magic with someone else?" Stella's tired eyes grew wide with surprise. "Share my Starlight? But I'm the only Starlight dragon in this forest. Who would I share it with? And how would I even know how to do such a thing?" "Aha!" I exclaimed, jumping up so suddenly my hat tumbled off, revealing my bald head gleaming like a crystal ball. "That's exactly the source of your problem. Starlight dragons are never meant to keep their magical abilities locked away like treasures in a vault. You are meant to be givers of peaceful dreams, weavers of restful sleep, guardians of quiet nights." I picked up my hat and placed it back at a jaunty angle. "Your Starlight magic isn't just for making you glow or helping you fly. It's designed by the universe to bring peace and comfort to other creatures. When you keep all that sleepy magic trapped inside, it creates a reverse enchantment. Instead of flowing outward, it bounces around inside you like jumping beans, keeping you awake." Stella tilted her head, and I was delighted to see her scales shimmer with curiosity rather than worry. "You mean I need to help other creatures fall asleep before I can find rest myself?" "Precisely," I said enthusiastically, doing a celebratory jig that made my robe swirl like purple mist while stars fell from my sleeves. "But don't worry, I know exactly how to help you discover your gift." I reached into my robe pocket and pulled out a remarkable compass that glowed with gentle light. But this wasn't an ordinary compass. It pointed toward creatures in desperate need of magical help. "This enchanted compass will guide us to friends who need your special gift," I explained, watching the needle spin before pointing toward the deeper forest. "Are you ready for the most important journey of your young dragon life?" And so began our magical adventure. I led Stella through the winding paths of the Whispering Woods, following wherever the compass directed. We walked along trails carpeted with crunching leaves, past babbling brooks, through clearings where wildflowers nodded drowsily. Our first stop was the home of the famous fidgety foxes, and when I say famous, I mean they were known throughout the entire forest for their complete inability to settle down for sleep. This wasn't just 1 or 2 restless foxes, mind you, but an entire extended family of red foxes who lived in an elaborate network of interconnected burrows beneath a great oak tree. This tree was absolutely enormous, so large that 20 grown wizards holding hands couldn't wrap their arms around its massive, ancient trunk. When we arrived at their clearing, we found them in quite a remarkable and rather overwhelming state. Mama Fox was pacing frantically back and forth in tight little circles, her magnificently bushy tail swishing with nervous energy that seemed to crackle in the air around her.
We just can't stop thinking about all the amazing adventures we'll have tomorrow,
she chittered desperately, her amber eyes bright with sleepless excitement.
and all the delicious berries we'll discover in brand new places we've never explored before,
added Papa Fox enthusiastically, practically bouncing up and down on his paws as he spoke, his own eyes sparkling with overwhelming anticipation for the coming day.
And all the fantastic games we'll invent to play with our friends,
squeaked the three little fox kids in perfect unison, tumbling over each other in their uncontainable excitement. They rolled and played and wrestled with such boundless energy that just watching them made me feel quite dizzy. Grandmother Fox, with her beautiful silver-tipped fur and wise, tired eyes, sat heavily by the main burrow entrance, shaking her graying head with deep concern.
They've been carrying on like this for weeks and weeks now,
she explained to us with a weary sigh.
Every single morning they wake up completely exhausted from not sleeping properly. But then, every single evening they become so wildly excited about the next day's possibilities that they simply cannot possibly calm down enough to rest. I'm growing quite worried that they'll make themselves seriously ill with all this tiredness.
Stella watched this incredible whirlwind of fox activity with wide, fascinated eyes. The sheer amount of energy swirling around was almost overwhelming to observe. She looked at me with uncertainty and doubt, her scales flickering with nervous light.
How can I possibly help them, Wizard Willowbeard? I don't even know the first thing about using my Starlight magic properly. They seem so completely full of energy and excitement. What if my gentle magic simply isn't strong enough to calm them down?
I placed a gentle, encouraging hand on her small dragon's shoulder and winked at her with one of my twinkling eyes. Trust your deepest instincts, little dragon. Your magic knows exactly what to do. You simply need to quiet your worried mind and let it flow as naturally as a stream flows downhill. Remember, the most powerful and effective magic always comes from a place of genuine love and caring for others, not from thinking too hard about technique or worrying about doing everything perfectly. Stella took a long, deep breath, closed her beautiful starry eyes, and tried her very best to quiet all the doubts and worries that were swirling around in her mind like autumn leaves in a whirlwind. Instead of focusing on her fears, she thought about the most peaceful things she could remember. How serene and tranquil the night sky looked when she flew through it during her evening flights. How calm and quiet everything felt when the whole world was bathed in gentle silver moonlight. How restful and asleep everything seemed when wrapped in the soft, protective darkness of night. Slowly, very gradually, her scales began to glow with a soft, warm light that was neither too bright and startling nor too dim and weak. It was just absolutely perfect for sleepy eyes that needed to feel safe and comfortable. The gentle radiance started at the very tip of her delicate tail and spread slowly upward through her entire body, like warm honey flowing through her scales, until every single one of them shimmered with the most beautiful, soothing light I had ever seen. As her magical glow grew warmer and more enveloping, Stella began to hum a wordless tune that seemed to come from somewhere deep in her dragon heart, a melody she had never learned from anyone but somehow knew perfectly, as if it had been sleeping inside her all along, just waiting to be discovered. The tune was like a gentle breeze flowing through summer grass. like warm rain pattering softly on leaves, like the distant sound of waves lapping peacefully against a quiet shore, like a loving mother's voice singing tenderly to her baby. The fidgety fox's pointed ears immediately perked up at the sound of this magical melody, and their restless pacing and excited bouncing gradually began to slow down. Papa Fox's bushy tail stopped swishing quite so energetically, and his bright eyes began to look pleasantly drowsy. Mama Fox's worried, anxious expression melted away like snow in spring sunshine, transforming into a soft, contented smile as the beautiful music washed over her like a warm bath. The three little kits stopped their wild tumbling and wrestling and settled down into a cozy, fuzzy heap, their eyelids growing heavier and heavier with each magical note of Stella's lullaby. Then, something even more wonderful and magical was happening before our very eyes. Stella's Starlight began to change and deepen, growing even softer and more nurturing than before, and tiny points of light, like the gentlest snow made of pure captured starshine, began to float and drift from her glowing scales. These sparkles of magical light moved slowly and gracefully through the air, dancing on the evening breeze like tiny ballerinas, before settling gently and lovingly on each member of the fox family. Wherever these magical sparkles landed, a feeling of deep contentment and drowsiness spread through their red fur like warm honey, relaxing every muscle in their bodies and calming every excited, racing thought in their minds. "That's the most incredibly beautiful sound I've ever heard in all my years of living in this forest," whispered Mama Fox with wonder, settling down next to her beloved family with a peaceful sigh that seemed to come from the very depths of her soul. "Good night, dear fox family," Stella whispered softly, her voice carrying all the warmth and tenderness of every lullaby that has ever been sung by loving parents throughout the world. One by one, the entire fox family drifted off into the most restful, restorative sleep they had experienced in many weeks. "Absolutely magnificent," I applauded as quietly as possible, being extremely careful not to wake the peacefully sleeping foxes. "You're a complete natural at this magical art, my dear dragon. Your gift is far stronger and more beautiful than you ever dared to imagine. But we're not quite finished with tonight's important work yet. Other creatures nearby desperately need your special help." The compass glowed and pointed us deeper into the forest, past the babbling silver brook to the meadow of restless rabbits. Here, dozens of rabbit families had built an impressive underground village with tunnels connecting cozy burrows. But tonight, they all sat outside their homes, looking worried and frightened. "What's troubling you, friends?" I asked gently, adjusting my spectacles. "Oh, Wizard Willowbeard!" exclaimed the eldest rabbit, a grandmother with silver whiskers. "We've been hearing strange sounds all evening, mysterious rustling in the bushes, creaking noises from the forest, and what sounded like heavy footsteps in the darkness. We're too frightened to sleep." Stella's scales flickered with understanding. "They're scared," she said compassionately. "They need to feel safe before they can rest." "Exactly right," I nodded approvingly. "Remember, your Starlight isn't just beautiful, it's protective. Starlight has always been a guardian against fears that lurk in darkness." This time, Stella didn't hesitate. She spread her wings and rose gracefully into the air, hovering above the gathered rabbits. Her glow became warmer and more golden, like the light of a cozy fireplace or a lighthouse beacon.
Instead of humming, Stella did something remarkable. She began telling a story with her light itself. The golden glow painted moving pictures in the night air. Brave rabbit heroes from ancient legends, safe burrows surrounded by protective magic, and kind guardian spirits watching over the meadow with loving care. The rabbits watched in wonder as Stella's light story unfolded above them. Their fear melted away like morning frost, replaced by security and peace. The mysterious forest sounds didn't seem threatening anymore, just the normal sounds of woods settling for the night. "Thank you, dear dragon," whispered Grandmother Rabbit, already yawning. "I can feel we're safe now. The Starlight will watch over us." One by one, the families hopped back to their burrows, and soon the meadow was quiet with peaceful breathing. As we walked away, I noticed something wonderful happening to Stella. Her scales glowed more steadily than before, and for the first time since I'd met her, she was beginning to yawn. "I'm actually feeling sleepy myself," Stella admitted with surprise, covering her mouth as she yawned. "It's the strangest but most wonderful feeling." "That's your magic working," I explained with delight. "Every time you help someone find peaceful sleep, your own sleep magic grows stronger. But we have one more important stop." Our final destination was the clearing of overexcited squirrels. These weren't ordinary squirrels, they were sparkle squirrels, magical creatures whose fur glittered with concentrated energy. During the day, they brought joy to the forest, but at night, their sparkly energy made it impossible to calm down. 23 sparkle squirrels were running in circles, performing incredible acrobatic leaps from tree to tree, chattering excitedly about everything and nothing. "We can't stop moving," called one, executing a perfect triple somersault. "Our sparkles are too tingly," added another, spinning like a furry tornado. "We're not tired at all," insisted a third, though his eyes were clearly droopy with exhaustion. Stella looked at this whirlwind of activity doubtfully. "How can I calm creatures with so much wild energy?" I smiled confidently. Sometimes the gentlest magic is the most powerful. You don't need to fight their energy. Help them channel it into something peaceful. Stella considered this advice, then did something brilliant. Instead of trying to stop them, she landed in the middle of their circle and began running with them, matching their pace perfectly. But as she ran, her starlight pulsed in a slow, steady rhythm, like a calm heartbeat, like peaceful breathing, like gentle ocean waves. The squirrels naturally matched their steps to her rhythm, and their frantic running became a graceful dance. Then, Stella wove her light through the air, creating ribbons of silver and gold that flowed like silk scarves. The squirrels' glittering fur began harmonizing with her light, and their energetic sparkles transformed into soft, sleepy glimmers. "Oh," breathed one squirrel, slowing to a walk. "This feels wonderful." "Like dancing in a dream," sighed another, settling on soft moss. Gradually, the running became walking, the walking became swaying, and the swaying became peaceful resting as the sparkle squirrels found comfortable spots to curl up. Their fur still glittered, but now like stars reflected in still water. "Sleep well, bright friends," Stella whispered tenderly. As the last squirrel drifted off, I watched Stella settle on a patch of soft grass. Her scales now glowed with the most beautiful, peaceful light, warm and calm, and perfectly ready for sleep. "Wizard Willowbeard," Stella said drowsily, "I feel so different now. like I'm floating on a cloud made of moonbeams."
"That's because you've discovered your true purpose," I told her gently. "Starlight dragons shine to bring peace to others. When you share that gift, it comes back to you multiplied." Stella curled up in a perfect circle, her tail wrapped around her like a glowing blanket.
"Will you tell me one more story? Something about dreams?"
I settled beside her, my old bones creaking softly, and told her about the dream garden, a magical place between waking and sleeping where all peaceful dreams grow like flowers. I described the sleepy moon who watches over everyone's rest, and the gentle night wind who carries happy dreams from one sleeping creature to another. As I spoke, Stella's eyes grew heavier and her starlight grew softer until it was just a gentle glow around her sleeping form. Her breathing became deep and even, and tiny sparkles of dreamlight began floating from her scales, drifting into the forest to bring peaceful dreams to every creature nearby. And do you know what happened next, my sleepy little listener? Stella slept for 12 wonderful hours, the most restful sleep she'd ever had. When she woke, she felt more rested and happy than ever before. From that night forward, Stella became known throughout the woods as the Dream Bringer. Every evening, creatures would gather to receive her gift of peaceful sleep. The fidgety foxes learned to look forward to bedtime, knowing Stella would bring dreams of adventures that never kept them awake. The restless rabbits slept soundly, protected by memories of her golden light. And the sparkle squirrels discovered their most beautiful sparkles came from the contentment that followed good sleep. And Stella herself? She never had trouble sleeping again. Every morning, after sharing her gift with others, she would return to her nest of silver moss and moonflower petals, and sleep would come as naturally as breathing. She learned the most important lesson of all. The magic we give away is the magic that comes back to us, and helping others find peace is the surest way to find peace ourselves. And now, my dear little one, I want you to remember Stella's secret. If you ever find yourself unable to sleep, think of someone you love and send them a wish for sweet dreams. Imagine wrapping them in warm, cozy light, just like Stella's starlight. For you too have magic inside you, the magic of love, kindness, and caring for others. When you share that magic, even in your thoughts, it will come back to you as peaceful, restful sleep. Close your eyes now and imagine Stella flying overhead, her gentle starlight sprinkling down like the softest snow. Feel her magic wrapping around you like the coziest blanket, and know that you are safe, loved, and ready for wonderful dreams. Sleep well, little one. The Starlight Dragon is watching over you, and all your dreams will be filled with magic and wonder. Good night. The end.